you are approaching retirement, but let's imagine 30 years ago, you're sitting there thinking about retirement. What are you thinking about? Thinking about travel? You thinking about grandkids? Are you thinking about gardening, hobbies, golf, relaxation, the beach? I would suggest that none of you thought you'd be listening to a conversation about retirement planning, but here you are. Why is that? It's because the idea of retirement planning is overwhelming. It is anxiety producing. It is confusing. It leads some to procrastinate. It leads some to paralysis. It leads some to indecision. It's a tough season. It's not for the faint of heart. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Our whole conversation is based on a Kiplinger article called The 5 Pillars of Retirement Planning. We're going to address what you know. We're going to address what you don't know. And we'll talk about what you don't know you don't know. My name is David Cox, and welcome to Retirement Today. If you'd like to watch this broadcast again or listen to it again, you can go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music. You can go to YouTube channel and type in Beacon Wealth Advisory, and there pops up a whole bunch of podcasts, mostly by Jenna Carnes and then one by me. And I'm also thrilled today to welcome Jaclyn Gladhill, who is our co-host today. Jaclyn, good to have you here.
Oh, it's so great to be here. And for our listeners and viewers, especially our viewers today, you will notice that you and I are in the same room.
This is so cool.
Dave, you got to come to Minnesota, and this is so exciting to meet in person for the first time.
Yes,
and it's such a pleasure to have you. So
I'm glad to be here.
I'm so excited to do this podcast. And, you're right. Retirement planning is more than just about saving money, as much as that's still a huge task in itself. It's truly about aligning your finances with the life that you want and you vision in retirement.
That is well said. I told you last week that I have 6 kids. My first 4 boys, and the 5th one was a girl, 6th one's a girl. When we would travel, when we were younger, when that first girl was born, she and I would often go off on some shopping adventure. We'd love to shop together. And we had this routine. We do this every single time. We'd go to a new shopping place, maybe a new mall, and I'd say, Lydia, where would you like to go? Mm-hmm. And she'd look over the shops and she'd say, Dad, I'd like to go there. And I'd look at store number 37. It's on level B. And then I said, great, we'll do that. And then I'd say, let's take another look at the directory of shops. And we're looking then for that little star, that little asterisk that says you are
here.
You're here. Mm-hmm. Because once you know where you are and where you want to go, you can map out a plan to get from here to there. Mm-hmm. The same is true about retirement planning. I ask folks that are sitting down with me for the very first time, when it comes to retirement, where do you want to go? What does a great retirement look like for you? Because it looks different to everybody. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then once we figure out where they want to go, we figure out where they are right now. Mm-hmm. And then once you know those 2 things, you can map out a plan to get them from here to there. Mm-hmm. And that involves these 5 pillars of retirement planning. Can you tell us what they are?
Yes. So the 5 pillars: tax planning, investment planning, income planning, healthcare, and legacy planning. So these work, best when they're all coordinated together to build that house around you.
Oh, that's well said. I went into this industry to help people avoid common mistakes that I saw people making all the time when it came to retirement planning. One of the biggest had to do with taxes, and it had to do with not taking advantage of the tax laws that are out there. There's some good ones, and you need to be aware of them. This is one of the most overlooked, often one of the most expensive parts of retirement is taxes. And people don't get that. People don't realize that. People don't understand that. The goal is to reduce, as we talked about last week when we talked about Roth conversions, it's to reduce your taxable footprint from this day forward, from now until you're gone, and really until your kids are gone, because you're leaving them some assets, and we want to do it in a tax efficient way. You got to be intentional. You got to be proactive. People tell me all the time, I tax plan. I say, well, tell me, what do you mean by that? And they say, well, in the first quarter of the year, I gather up a bunch of documents, I take them to my CPA, and we do my taxes. And I say, that's not tax planning.
Mm-hmm.
That's tax preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Tax planning, again, is looking at the income you've got, the assets you've got, the goals that you have, and figuring out a way to reduce taxes from today until the end of your time here on planet Earth. And taxes are complicated. Everybody knows that. They're very personal, and we feel they're again overwhelming kind of things. So we kind of ignore it, we kind of put it off. But there are some things about taxes that are almost universal. I'll give you a couple examples. Number one, RMDs,
Yes.
required minimum distributions. For retirees, they are a big deal. When it comes to your 401k, when it comes to your IRA, the IRS says prior to age 59 and a half, you can't take anything out without taxes and a penalty. And then they say, once you reach 73 or 75, depending upon when you were born, you have to take this amount out. Between 59 and a half and 73, 75, you get to decide. You have a 14-year to 16-year window where you get to decide, do I want to take assets out? How much do I want to take out? A little, a lot, or something in between? Okay. You get to decide. And that decision that you make can significantly increase your taxable income. And Jaclyn, it has a ripple effect, a domino effect. When you take RMDs out, they can affect your Social Security benefits. They can increase your Medicare premium. They can sometimes double your Medicare premium, which is a scary thing. Irma tax. Aunt Irma, when she comes to visit, it's not a good thing.
Yeah, or Uncle Sam.
Uncle Sam gets his share. The state that you live in gets his share. RMDs are a big deal. And I have all the time people say, well, Dave, I have a pension. I have Social Security. I have rental income. I don't need my IRA distributions. Can I not take them? No. Once you reach that age, that 73 to 75, you have to take them.
And there's penalties.
There's penalties if you don't. You can get a real nasty grant from the IRS that says you get like a 25% penalty. It's obscene. Here's the thing about RMDs. There's really three things you can do with them. You can spend them on bills or lifestyle fun. You can reinvest them if you choose in brokerage accounts or maybe life insurance or something like that. Or the third thing is you can give them away. You can give your RMDs if you don't need them to your kids or grands. You can do your giving while you're living, so you're knowing where it's going, kind of thing. Or you can give them in a charitable way. And if you do it in a charitable way, this is one of the best tax planning rules out there.
It's a loophole, right?
It's a great loophole. It's a tax law that I love, and a lot of people don't know about it, and you've got to know about it. If you have IRAs and you practice generosity, you want to know about what's called a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution. And once you reach the age of RMDs, you want to practice that. Give directly from your IRA to the charity of your choice, to the church of your choice, synagogue of your choice, United Way, Red Cross, Wounded Warriors, whatever. Give directly. How much credit do you get for that? 100%. None of that is taxable. Not a dime of that required distribution is taxable if you give it directly as a charitable contribution. It's a cool thing. Donor advised funds are another way to practice charitable contributions. Roth conversions, we talked about them last week. Very important for folks. All I'm trying to say is you have to be proactive. You have to be intentional when it comes to tax savings. You have to have a plan.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think one thing about taxes is I personally believe that taxes are the number one thing that's forgotten in retirement planning. You know, you don't think about how much of an effect it will have on you.
Profound.
And so, you know, taxes can be one of our biggest retirement expenses. But get informed and be intentional about it to reduce the amount of pay that you will end up paying for the rest of your life. And it's also important to note that tax laws do change. I like to say that they're sometimes written in pencil. And so just being, communicating with your financial advisor and focusing on putting it into a plan and maybe adapting once things could change.
We have had huge tax laws in the last 6-7 years, sweeping changes to the entire industry.
Big, beautiful bill.
Yep, that's a big one. Secure Act 1, Secure Act 2.0.
Yes.
Those have changed a lot.
Absolutely. Well, let's go on to number 2. Pillar number 2 is investment planning. So pillar 1 was tax planning. Now let's go to investment planning.
And what we're talking about here is the key question is when you get into retirement, Is it time to adjust the risk that you're taking? Are you taking more risk than is necessary? Are you taking enough risk? Risk often is tied to lifestyle changes and stages of life changes, if you will. If I were to ask our listeners, our viewers, describe for me, and you can help me with this, describe for me the perfect investment. What do you think they'd say? The perfect investment.
Real estate.
Okay. What you just
Kids?
What would you No, that's not a perfect investment. They're perfect and they're an investment, but not together. Okay, so let me help you frame the question. Okay, so what would the perfect investment look like? What would be some features of the perfect investment? Maybe a high return on investment.
Yeah.
An ROI that's really excellent.
It's easy. It's
easy, understandable.
Yes, understandable.
How about fees?
Oh, no fees.
No fees. Exactly.
No fees.
How about liquidity, access to it?
Oh, easily.
100 access.
Yes.
Yep. And how about safety?
Oh, I like some safety.
Yeah. Safe, ROI, liquid, no fees.
Yes.
Does that investment exist?
No, but can we make it?
No, I wish we could. I wish our listeners could. I wish we could, because if you ever find out about it, please let me know.
I will.
Because I want some of that.
Okay.
I want some of that.
10%.
It doesn't exist. Every 10%. Every investment has a trade-off of some type. Okay. Let's my wife and I, when we go out to eat, we like to go out to eat a lot. So in Kansas City, where we go out to eat, there's some places that are really primo. There's a place called Eddie V's, and oh my gosh, it is such quality stuff.
Oh.
And then there's a Ruth Chris, and the service there is exceptional. But sometimes, we want Ruth Chris and Eddie V's at Applebee's prices.
Oh, yeah.
Can I get that?
No,
I can't. There's always a trade-off. I have to decide what matters most to me at that point in time. Do I want the quality? Do I want the service? Then I'm not going to pay Applebee's prices. But if the price matters most. My point is, there's a trade-off at every type of dinner, every type of investment, every type of vehicle. And I find a lot of time people choose the right investment at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Right investment at the wrong time. So when you're young like you, in your 20s, you're just getting started, it's about accumulation. You're thinking of retirement, you're thinking maybe 30, 40 years from now, and you're thinking, I need some growth. I need robust growth. But when you're approaching retirement, it's a different conversation altogether. It's about managing the risk that you're taking with your assets. You need to build what I call a safe risk ratio. At Beacon Wealth, we have what's called a COMRA, a color of money report analysis. And that gives us the ability to read what an individual really wants their money to do for them. How much risk they want to take, how much safety they want to take. That is a critical question for all retirees. When I was younger, Jaclyn, when I was growing up, we used to go to the lake a lot, my family.
Oh.
We live in the Midwest. Missouri lakes are incredible.
Yes.
And we'd go to the lake and we'd be on the boat. We'd be out on the water. And I love to water ski. Do you ever water ski?
I actually wake surf.
That's very cool.
Okay. Water skiing, I cannot get up on. Okay. But
well, when I was young, I used to pop up on those skis and veer out hard past the wake, out into the rough waters, slide across both sides of the wake, out on the right side, and lean into it. It's a lot of fun outside the wake. If I got out on skis right now at 67, you know what I'd be doing?
You'd be doing it.
I'd be right behind the boat, bare knuckles, just holding on as tight as I can, right in the wake.
Yeah.
In the safest place possible. I don't want the white caps out there. I want this. I'm going to be out on the water, but I'm going to be in a safe place.
Yeah. The risk, the safety.
There you go. Exactly. That's what people need to think about as they're approaching retirement. How much safety do I need in my portfolio? They need to take a color of money report.
Yes.
And identify their safe risk ratio and align their assets accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with that. I think a lot of people don't even realize, or they can't even explain what their risk, what they're comfortable with before taking that analysis. I know that for myself, I would think that, maybe I could be more risky. Well, at the end of the day, is that true? I don't know. So it's
Everybody's a risk taker when the market's going up.
correct. Correct. So it's so important to take that. But Dave, what about the do-it-yourselfer?
Well, there's a lot of studies where that show do-it-yourselfers often underperform the benchmarks significantly because of the emotional component to investing. Investing is an emotional thing, and emotions can be your worst enemy when it comes to investing.
Yes.
You get this stock, you see Nvidia flying up or gold flying up, and I don't want to miss out on that. The fear of missing out, the FOMO thing, and you buy in high, but then it gets really rocky and starts going down, and you say, I'm going to hold on to it, and then it keeps going down. You're scared, so you sell it at this point down here, and then about that time you sell it, it starts rebounding up, and so the reverse is what often people do when they do it yourself. They sell low, buy high instead of the opposite.
Yes.
So we need to adjust risk as people retire and deal with that stage of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm so glad that we, discussed this, because when it comes to investments in retirement, when people that are older, closer to retirement, their risk tolerance is going to be very different than mine, right?
Very much so.
The two of us, we have completely different risk tolerances. And, it's just so important to recognize that and maybe just realize maybe you're taking on more risk than is necessary for you and your portfolio. So risk often, changes as life stage changes, and just like we said too. So, well, let's go on to the third pillar now, which is income planning. So, Dave, where do we start with this one?
Well, again, one of the biggest mistakes, I got in the industry to help people avoid these mistakes, is not developing a comprehensive plan. A lot of people have assets, they have income, but they have no plan. And we've got to help them develop that. Retirement has changed. When my grandfather retired, he had what he called his mailbox money. His mailbox money was his Social Security and his pension, and he got it every month, and it took care of his family. He had a little bit in savings, a little bit in CDs, a few random stocks, but he had the simplest of plan because he had his mailbox money. Well, how many today can say that? Today, it's a different thing. Very few people have pensions anymore.
Yes.
Social Security is not enough to live on by itself. So you've got a shortfall there. You've got to figure out how to meet the income gap, if you will. Today's retirees have some real issues. When you retire, your paycheck stops.
Yeah.
And you've got to create from the assets you've got, the resources you have. You've got to create a retirement paycheck and retirement paycheck so that you have the money to go the distance for you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, and that's, I love that you talked about mailbox money, and let's kind of move on to maybe what's like the biggest fear?
Well, the biggest fear, most people walk into my office and say, is they're afraid of running out of money.
Yeah.
So what they go, how do I take the income I've got and factor it into a plan and deal with taxes, deal with market volatility, deal with a longevity because we're living longer than ever, and deal with all those things and make sure it goes the distance. That's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. You have to carefully create a plan to do that in order.
Yeah, we don't have magic 8 balls or magic balls that, crystal balls that tell us how long we're going to live, what our life is going to look like in retirement, what, disasters or things come in the way. None of that.
In retirement, you need everybody should have a spending plan. A spending plan is a budget. Okay. You need an income plan. Where's your income going to come from? And you need a balance sheet. And so we help people create those things to give them confidence that their money's going to go the distance for them if they stay within those boundaries, those railings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, can you just mention, I think something important that you mentioned to me prior to recording was ROI. So why don't you explain to our listeners, ROI is typically return on investment.
Right.
What does it mean to you?
I think in retirement, it means reliability of income. So you've got you've got expenses. What's your reliable sources of income that are going to meet those expenses?
Yeah.
Social Security is one. It's a guaranteed source of income.
Mhm.
Maybe you have a pension, but don't tell me your market money is going to be the other source of the rest of your income, because it's not. It's a variable source. It's not a reliable source. And so you need something else to help meet that income gap. Use your market money for inflation. Use your market money for lifestyle. But for your core expenses, look for that guaranteed money that's going to meet that need.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, to close this pillar out, it's really about, coordinating an income strategy to give you that income in retirement that you
Yes, ma'am.
need to successfully, not only live, but to enjoy and not worry so much. I mean, yes, we don't know how long we're going to live or if we're going to run out of money. So having that little bit of peace of mind in this planning process is going to do so much for your retirement.
Exactly right.
So, Dave, let's move on to pillar number 4 now, which is healthcare planning.
Okay, healthcare planning. We're talking about Medicare. We're talking about long-term care. You're talking about insurance is really kind of what you're talking about. And people get insurance for one core reason. They get it to offload the risk associated with that insurance. So I drive in Kansas City, and it's the drivers there. Yeah, some of them are a little wild and hairy. So
I mean, Minnesota's the same
is
way.
it the same way? So when it comes to the risk of driving in Kansas City, there's 4 ways you can respond to it. You can absolutely ignore it and pretend, it's really not that bad. It's not such a problem. I'm just going to not pretend it's there and just go right on your way. You could avoid the risk by parking your car in the garage. I'm so scared of driving in Kansas City, I just park my car in the garage 24/7. You could try to power up and manage the risk and I'm going to be the safest 10-2 driver there is in Kansas City.
Hey, did you know it's 9-3 now?
9 now? See, I got to get up. I got to be current. I got to be the safest 9-3 driver in Kansas City. Okay. That doesn't guarantee somebody else isn't going to hit you.
No.
Even if you are a super safe driver. So you can avoid it. You can ignore it. You can manage it or try to. Everybody does the 4th option. They transfer the risk.
Yes.
They transfer the risk. When it comes to healthcare planning, healthcare in retirement can disrupt a plan really bad if you don't have it organized. You don't want those budget busters. You don't want those surprises. When you hit 65, you have to think about Medicare, Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D. You think about the supplements, A through G. You've got alphabet soup going on there. And it can be very, very complex. But all of that is designed to help you avoid the surprises, plan for costs and things like that. Medicare, think of it as a wall. There's Part A, there's Part B, but there's leaks in the wall. There's holes in the wall, and things are leaking. And how you fill those leaks is up to you. And you decide whether it's Medicare supplement or Medicare Advantage, a Part C, and you fill those in different ways. You just have to have a plan, and meeting with a reliable, trustworthy Medicare advisor can help make sense of all of that. Pretty important stuff.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into what, an LTC means, but let's talk about just what it means. What is an LTC?
Long-term care.
Okay.
And we're thinking about long-term care. And when you say long-term care, people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to deal with it. Even if they've had somebody that they love that has experienced that and had the hardship of that, is something that's not fun to talk about.
No.
And yet, if you're 67, there's a 70% chance that you're going to need some kind of long-term care.
Are you calling yourself old?
I'm so old. I went into an antique store and they wouldn't let me leave. So,
Dave, that is so not true.
It's absolutely true. Long-term care, there are 5 ways that you can prepare for long-term care. 5 ways. You got to plan for it. How do you plan for long-term care? You can self-insure. I've lost you. Come back, Jaclyn.
I'm coming.
You can self-insure. You can have enough assets to where you can just take care of it yourself. You sweet thing. You can self-insure. You can do an asset-based program. You can do a hybrid type of program using life insurance that has a death benefit. But if you need it for long-term care, it's there. You can do traditional long-term care, or you can do the fifth option, which is one that you can depend upon your family. In most cultures of the world, that's actually the one that people use. But in America, we don't want to depend upon our kids. We don't want to depend upon our grands. We want to have one of those others try to provide.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and that's pretty important. So the fourth pillar is really healthcare planning.
Yes,
and,
ma'am.
you know, it's another major pillar. And the reason why we explain it is because people are living longer
For
now.
sure.
And, you know, you're not old now. So you might have been 67, might have been old 100 years ago, but it's not old now. So, you know, healthcare costs are one of the biggest.
Let me pick it up for you.
Yes, please.
They're one of the biggest wild cards in retirement. We got to plan for them. There's a fifth and final piece to the pillars.
Okay.
And it is legacy planning. And it is, again, one that I think people really tend to avoid. I wonder how many of our listeners it's really important to them to leave money to their kids or their grandkids. I've asked people, groups that, and a lot of them say it's not important. Others of them say it is really important. So everybody has a different perspective on that. But the reality is most people are going to leave something to the next generation. If we do our job, they're going to leave something to the next generation. And we want that to be, if you will, the most tax efficient possible legacy for them to enjoy. You know, we want to make it a Roth if possible. We want to make it a life insurance if possible.
Accessible. Yep. The least amount of, you know, loops and jumps that you have to jump through as a child, because you're going to be grieving. You know, that's a huge step. And so trying to make it as easy as possible.
You don't want people to be dealing with financial encumbrance, difficulties, challenges, sorting all that out when they're grieving.
Absolutely.
I like to say this. If something happened to you tomorrow, would your spouse be able to step in and take over the plan and run the plan? Would they know what decisions not to make? Would they know how the risk is to be managed? Would they know how income is supposed to be sourced into the family? Would they know who to contact even?
Yes.
Who
I was
should they
just going to
call?
say.
Peace of mind in retirement isn't just about you. It's about those you love the most.
Absolutely.
That's a big part of legacy planning. That, and of course, the ones you love the most, dealing with beneficiaries, making sure your beneficiary designations are all up to date, not only on your retirement accounts, but your brokerage accounts, your checking accounts, your savings account. Your house can have a beneficiary designation. Your cars can have a beneficiary designation.
And something that I want to note about beneficiaries is that they trump a trust and a will. So the fact that you have to put out all of these beneficiaries for all of these different accounts, it's so important to pay attention to that, because and update them, you know, and because those essentially will trump it. And we really have heard some horror stories about that.
Stories, yes, ma'am.
So
I've seen it.
But anyways, so the fifth and final pillar was legacy planning, and just, you know, make sure that your basic documents, those wills, the powers of attorneys, the beneficiaries, you know, those are essential. And preparation should really include, you know, for the widowhood, which is so sad to even think about, but you don't want to always wonder what if, or be in that situation to ever be in trouble.
I agree. You got to take care of those that you love the most.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to us today, you may be going, 5 pillars, Dave, you and Jaclyn have covered a ton of stuff. Where do I even start? Where do I even start?
Well, there's so many moving pieces, Dave. You know, working with a financial services professional, though, can be extremely helpful in this situation. And not only yourself, but working with a financial professional with your spouse. And making sure that there's a relationship there for the what ifs. It's less about, you know, really handing everything off, but more about having a guide with you as you go through these pillars.
Imagine having a second set of eyes on what you're doing for your retirement. Having someone that could ask the questions that you don't even know to ask, or evaluate the risks that you don't even know are there, or confirming maybe you're right on track. Having someone that's along your side, a process, a partner, someone that cares for you, cares for your family, is looking out for your best interests. Again, life changes, tax changes, markets change, and it's about having that kind of relationship with a professional that can lead you through those difficult waters.
And like you said, it's not a one-time conversation. This should be ongoing. This should be a yearly check-in, and especially you and your spouse sit down with a financial professional, a financial advisor that you both feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. We at Beacon, Jenna, when I was interviewing with them, looking for a new place to join, I asked her, "What are you trying to build here?" And she said, "I'm trying to build the most loving, caring financial firm in Kansas City." And I said, "I want to be part of that." A place where people really matter, a place where they're really cared for, where they're really served. That kind of relationship, I want to be part of that. So if you're listening to me today and you want to maybe sit down and have a short conversation, or maybe just a phone call, a 15-minute phone call, just to talk about your situation, your story, where you're at in life, we'd be honored to do that. Give us a call at 1-800-994-8993, and I'll carve out time for a 15-minute, what we call a discovery call, just to get acquainted, see if there's some way that we can be of service to you. I want to thank you for listening to us today, maybe laughing a little bit with us today on Retirement Today. Thank you, Jaclyn, for joining me. It's
Thank
an honor
you, Dave.
to have you here.
Yes, and that does it for this episode of Retirement Today with our host, Dave Cox.